Hello, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching DZAIR News Live, and welcome to this English news edition. Coming up in the next 25 minutes. The so-called 19 group has now officially become the 19-3 group after the withdrawal of 3 of its members. Plus, the government is waging a war against the problem of unexploited industrial real estate lands. And later in our news program, leaders of the world's 20 biggest economies, the G20, are to meet in the Turkish resort town of Antalya for 2 days, starting Sunday. Welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin this news edition with national politics, the so-called 19 group that has requested a meeting with President of the Republic Abdelaziz Bouteflika has now officially become the 19-3 group after the withdrawal of 3 of its members, which puts its future into uncertainty, especially considering that it does not even enjoy the support of neither pro-government nor opposition parties. Lamia Ashush.
After the withdrawal of 3 names out of the so-called 19 group, which created quite a fuss in both the political and media scenes, and following the response of Prime Minister Abdelmalek Sellal, stipulating that President Bouteflika is observing everything and that he is the one and only decision maker, the so-called 19-3 group is now visibly shaken. Political immaturity and precipitation, as well as indecent declarations and conflicts, have reportedly pushed 3 political figures to withdraw their names from the infamous list of those who requested a physical meeting with the president, evoking an inevitable question as to whether this could be the beginning of the end of the 19 group. Especially that both pro-government and opposition parties have not exactly been too enthusiastic about the initiative launched by the former Minister of Culture Khalida Toumi and the head of the Workers' Party Louisa Hanoun. Thus, this group is now facing an imminent necessity to restructure itself. Meanwhile, the Algerian public has found such political initiative strange, to say the least, and considers the 19-3 group's initiative a mere political stunt, introduced by figures who not long ago have been cheering in support of the current regime. Political analysts in Algeria are fully aware that the political roadmap of the country has changed, with the emergence of an implicit conflict between pro-government parties from one side and the many problems that opposition parties are facing from the other. All this on the eve of the upcoming constitution revision, which will, without a doubt, put Algeria on a whole new political phase.
As mentioned in the headlines, in its recent very severe instructions and measures, the government is waging a war against the problem of unexploited industrial real estate lands, which are going to be recovered from their current owners and reoriented to other investors to help boost national economy. Karim Zakri.
It seems that the government is waging a war against the owners of unexploited industrial zones, and which represent 60% of industrial real estate lands provided to industrial investors through privilege, and which are now going to be given to other investors. Now someone takes a piece of land and holds it for 10 years and exploits it. Is this right? 60% of lands given through privileges are completely unexploited. Is this right? Now the government has decided to recover these lands and give them to people who are willing to invest, because today we are in desperate need for that. More than 250 million hectares of deserts and hills and 17 million hectares of rural lands recently counted all belong to the states and are going to be reoriented to those with potential investment projects. We have sent them warnings. We are in the second warning, and in case there is no reaction to haste and launch their projects, the state represented by the governor has all the right to take away these lands from them and redistribute them for those who have an investment project. Indeed, very severe instructions and measures have been implemented to eradicate the problem of real estate in the coming 6 months, once and for all. So as the industry real estate will be for those who are truly willing to serve it to boost the national economy.
A memorandum of understanding on the creation of an Algerian-Chinese joint venture specializing in the manufacture of trains, metro and trams was signed by the Ministers of Transport, Industry and Mines, Mr. Talay and Bouchwereb, and the head of the Chinese company, Norinco. Karim Fazakri.
Public transportation would be soon provided at night, and 600 traffic lights will be in place in the capital, according to Vice President of Popular Assembly of the province of Algiers, Abdelwahab Ben Zaim. An additional allocation will be voted in favor of each user at the annual general meeting scheduled for November 19th, and all the necessary resources will be made available to the national company to provide transport services at night. For this purpose, a fleet of up to 10,000 buses will be assigned to enhance the services at night. The Vice President affirmed at the same time that private transport ensuring the lines of the capital to the suburbs would be redirected to other areas of the province. As for traffic lights, they will soon be installed at the capital and neighboring towns with the aim of regulating the flow of road traffic, which has become chaotic and nerve-wracking. Thus, citizens could at last benefit from public transportation services at night, a breath of fresh air for this user who, until now, had no other choice to pay for cabs late at night with an expensive price, and traffic lights could be a good way to regulate traffic for those transport services, particularly during rush hour.
In other national news, one of the most important sources of red meat in Algerian market is endangered due to drought, reduction of grazing fields and mixed breeding. The Nobel sheep breed of Ouled Jalal is thus put under protection in an attempt to protect the production of red meat, seeing the capacity of this breed to give birth twice a year, unlike other breeds. Karim Fazakri again.
They are part of the biggest Arab breed group found in most areas of the country and most noble breed in Algeria. Ouled Jalal breed, which takes its name from the region it comes from, are more than 250,000. This breed lives in a grazing area of 168,000 hectares. Of its characteristics, it adapts easily to the heat and dry weathers. It resists thirst and can go hungry for days. Its meat is one of the best in Algeria. However, this breed is going scarce lately due to mixed breeding. Look, its ear reaches its mouth. It has an especially tall neck, and you notice that its kneecap and legs are tall. Like this you find out the pure breed of this sheep. Most of the local residents in Ouled Jalal live on sheep breeding. This made it a destination for sheep buyers from around the country. The production of this area meets the growing demands of the Algerian market. Yet the recent drought on the region made the production go low in comparison. Thus, the government created a special facility for the protection of this breed in particular.
الهدف من إنشاء المركز في المرحلة الأولى كان الحفاظ على سلالة أولد جلال لأن مؤخرا.
The aim of creating this facility at first was to preserve the breed of Ouled Jalal because lately there was a lot of mixed breeding. Ouled Jalal is a breed that has adapted with the environment here and doesn't have any horns. This breed is important for reproduction. It can give birth 2 times a year if taken care of very well. It's an important source of red meat for the Algerian market. The weight of one sheep can reach 50 kilograms in only 5 months, yet this is endangered by the recent drought and the reduction of grazing fields.
Indian summer is a period of unseasonably warm, dry weather that sometimes occurs in autumn. It defines weather conditions that are sunny and clear with above normal temperatures occurring late September to mid-November. Many Algerians choose to enjoy these last days of sunbathing because rain is back in just a few days. Karim Fazakri.
In tank top, shorts, or even topless. A scene which might lead you to think it's still summer. Hard to believe, yet this is now, November, the heart of fall. Sun is always there waiting for you with temperatures almost similar to those recorded during summer season. We're in November and as you see it's a bit hot, a phenomenon which reoccurs each year. Climate change is a phenomenon which we're used to. It's November and you see it's hot. You wake up in the morning thinking it would be cold and may rain, so you wear your jacket, then the middle of the day it's hotter than June. In November there used to be lots of showers, but this year the heat was strong, and according to experience, when the summer is very hot, the winter is gonna be rainy and cold. But it's November, it's not the case. Yep, these temperatures above seasonal averages are not the lowest on record. Much higher peaks were recorded in previous years.
On a eu des températures quand même peut-être un peu élevé, 2-3 degrés.
We had rather 2 or 3 degrees higher than usual, but the years in which it was very hot, it was in the year of 2012 and 2013. So as you can see in this illustration regarding the situation of the months of October and November, this anticyclone, which we call Azores anticyclone, stopped all kinds of disturbances to enter our atmosphere. But there is nothing to worry about, because according to balance, we had enough rain in the month of October, and even if we won't have any in November, it's still not alarming.
Mais c'est pas alarmant.
Although the sun is not at the right appointment, it is always welcome and is a delight for walkaboys who enjoy these moments by the sea with friends, family, or even as a couple who choose to enjoy these last days of sunbathing because the rain is back in just a few days.
Moving on to world news, Kurdish forces said they had to secure strategic facilities in the northern Iraqi town of Sinjar on Friday as part of an offensive against the so-called Islamic State insurgents that could provide critical momentum in efforts to defeat the terrorist group. Kurdish forces backed by US airstrikes and volunteers from Iraq's Yazidi minority, which has suffered violence at the hands of the so-called Islamic State, entered Sinjar on Friday after cutting it off from the east and west. Meanwhile, the Iraqi army says it has launched an offensive to recapture the western city of Ramadi from IS. The ISIS terrorist dubbed Jihadi Joan oversaw the brutal execution of American and Western hostages, was hit by a US airstrike Thursday night and is believed to have been killed. Pentagon Press Secretary Peter Cook said US forces conducted an airstrike in Raqqa, Syria yesterday, Thursday, targeting Mohammed Imzawi, also known as Jihadi Joan. British Prime Minister David Cameron said officials are not certain whether this strike killed Imzawi. He also said the strike had been a joint effort and that British intelligence agencies were working around the clock to find the British accented jihadists, whom he called the insurgents group lead executioner.
Last night, the United States carried out an airstrike in Raqqa, Syria, targeting Mohammed Emwazi, the ISIL executioner known as Jihadi John. We cannot yet be certain if the strike was successful. But let me be clear. I've always said that we would do whatever was necessary, whatever it took, to track down Emwazi and to stop him taking the lives of others. We've been working with the United States literally around the clock to track him down. This was a combined effort, and the contribution of both our countries was essential. Emwazi is a barbaric murderer. He was shown in those sickening videos of the beheading of British aid workers. He posed an ongoing and serious threat to innocent civilians, not only in Syria, but around the world, and in the United Kingdom too. He was ISIL's lead executioner, and let us never forget that he killed many, many Muslims too. And he was intent on murdering many more people. So this was an act of self-defense. It was the right thing to do. Today I want to thank the United States. The United Kingdom has no better friend or ally.
And always with the same context, one of Jihadi Joan's old neighbors in London said to media outlets that Mohammed Imzawi didn't deserve to be killed that way and was rather to be captured alive instead, as he expressed his deep grief towards the incident. Let's have a listen.
He didn't really deserve to be really killed on this way. He shouldn't really been captured by the collision. So they can get some sort of information. He was intelligent according to the news that I've seen. and he turns to a monster. And you come the next day out, or, you know, I was just coming back from the school, all the journalists and police around, and I was really shocked. Like, you know, a neighbor, he was beheading people. They were fighting, and other kids were really surrounding them, and he was standing like cool, doing nothing. He was just watching, and his mom was just coming out shouting and telling her own son, why don't you act like, you know, stopping them, stop your brother to get beaten.
In other world news, leaders of the world's 20 biggest economies, the G20, are to meet in the Turkish resort town of Antalya for 2 days, starting Sunday, to discuss different mutual matters. Global economies, the worst migrant crisis since World War II, and climate change are expected to dominate the talks at the summit. Ahead of the G20 summit, EU leaders will gather to discuss the migration crisis that has seen more than 500,000 refugees enter the EU since the start of the year, threatening to dismantle Europe's open internal borders agreement. The discussion is expected to continue in Turkey as European leaders ask the world to help tackle the problem.
One of the biggest issues that needs to be solved is that there is not enough funding for humanitarian appeals for refugees across the world. So we see people, for example, Syrian refugees in Lebanon, suffering from not having enough food, not having adequate shelter, not getting enough medication and access to healthcare. And we see how the desperate situations of Syrian refugees and others lead them to take very dangerous journeys, risking their lives, trying to get to Turkey and going from Turkey to the European Union. But also, we would like to see a commitment to resettle all the refugees that have been identified by the UN as in need of resettlement. At the moment, there's only about 100,000 resettlement places available globally, but the actual need is for 1.15 million refugees to be resettled.
Officials say Myanmar's opposition National League for Democracy has won a landslide election victory, with more than 80% of contested seats now declared. Suu Kyi's party has more than the two-thirds it needs to choose the president, ending decades of military-backed rule. A quarter of seats are automatically held by the military, meaning it remains hugely influential, and under the constitution, Ms. Suu Kyi cannot become president herself. Despite this, the election was seen as the first openly contested poll in Myanmar, also known as Burma, in 25 years. Way back to Algeria now, and apparently the Algerian government is eager to move toward or forward with its crisis-hit economy by introducing a series of measures aimed at promoting its breathtaking Saharan landscapes through safeguarding and providing foreign tourists with security and better conditions. According to experts, Algeria has huge potentials that will allow it to become a popular tourist destination. Mustafa Azzouk.
Algeria is keen to embark on a new chapter in the field of promoting tourism through implementing a new series of measures aimed at promoting its breathtaking natural landscapes to attract foreign tourists. With over 80% of its land occupied by the Sahara Desert, Algeria is a country for the true adventurer. The Sahara is the largest, hottest desert in the world. A name that conjures romantic fantasies of shifting sand dunes, palm-lined oases, and hellish visions of vast, waterless expanses. It's a place known as much for its breathtaking beauty. One of the series that is set to be undertaken is safeguarding borders, as the government deployed more than 10,000 law enforcement officers scattered across 5 major provinces in the south. The latter will undoubtedly ensure a smooth running of tourism season in the south. Boosting the national economy through reviving the yet stalled tourism sector has become a necessity for Algeria to move forward and overcome the oil crisis that severely hit the national economy.
And finally, to wrap it up, the Greens of Algeria have landed safe and sound in the capital of Tanzania ahead of their first 2018 World Cup qualifiers match against the local team. Despite the numerous injuries and sidelined players, the national coach Christian Gourcuff is optimistic about triumphing over Tanzania and bringing the 3 points back home. Mustafa Azok.
The Desert Foxes will kick off their journey to qualifying for the 2018 World Cup in Russia from the African Safari in Tanzania, where the national football squad arrived safe and sound in Dar es Salaam, following a long, tiresome flight to take on local team Tanzania in Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. local time. After qualifying 2 times in a row to the World Cup in 2010 and 2014 respectively, the Desert Foxes want to succeed for the 3rd time in a row. On paper, the Greens seem to be the favourites of the double encounters with the Taifa Stars, but Christian Gourcuff men who have the potentials to win and book their spots to the group stage of Russia World Cup qualifiers despite suffering from injuries. The poor performances against Lesotho in the qualifiers for the African Cup of Nations CAN 2017 and the 2 friendly matches against Guinea and against Senegal respectively spread waves of doubt about the team's latest performances. It is important not to miss and not to put at risk the chances of qualifying for the next round of FIFA World Cup 2018.
And we wrap up our English news edition with a reminder of our main top stories. The so-called 19 group has now officially become the 19-3 group after the withdrawal of 3 of its members. The government is waging a war against the problem of unexploited industrial real estate lands. And leaders of the world's 20 biggest economies, the G20, are to meet in the Turkish resort town of Antalya for 2 days starting Sunday. The end of our English news edition. The news continue on DZAIR News channel. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.